Hi, I'm Dr. Alexis Daniels, a functional medicine and mind-body practitioner at Vitality Lab here at Mamba Sports Academy. And I wanted to talk to you today about some integrative strategies you can use to augment the public health measures you're already implementing to keep yourself safe during this COVID pandemic. So COVID is a novel virus, meaning it's new and we still have so much to learn. So I'm not saying that any of the recommendations are acting as a cure or a treatment for the virus, but this is just to add on to the things that you're already doing. And so many people will actually end up getting this virus, and the goal is to be part of that 80% that have mild symptoms and don't have to use the hospital, don't end up on ventilators or other things. So let's talk about step by step how the virus actually impacts our body and what you can do to minimize the expression of this virus. So the virus is actually enclosed in a lipid bilayer, which is why hand washing with soap is still so important and critical. When you wash your hands with soap, you help break down and emulsify that lipid bilayer, which stops the virus right there. It doesn't even have a chance to get on your body, in your body, and that still is your best defense right now. But let's just say the virus happens to get into your nose or mouth because you've inhaled it or swallowed it or rubbed your eyes or your mouth. Once it gets in, you still have a whole barrier defense. You still has a whole line of mucosal immunity that lines your nose, your sinuses, your throat, your GI tract. That's your first line of defense. It's a physical barrier that protects you from the outside, and that in many people, that secretory IgA stops the virus right then and there. So what can you do to improve your secretory IgA? Well, first and foremost, the most important thing you can do is help minimize stress. Stress is the number one influencer to decrease that barrier, to weaken that barrier and make it more vulnerable. So high stress hormones like cortisol really have the most detrimental impact on your secretory IgA. The other thing you can do is get a really great restful sleep. So when you are sleeping, your stress hormones are lower. Your immune system can activate and replenish and rebuild, which also includes rebuilding that mucosal immunity and secretory IgA. So stress and sleep are number 1 and 2. We've also talked about vitamins like vitamin A that helps build that mucosal immunity, and probiotics. So probiotics are able to signal to the immune system, which help that mucosal immunity. They are also important for the gut environment. So part of your nasal passage involves your gut, and it's an opportunistic environment. Whatever there is more of is going to take over. So when you take probiotics, you add in good bacteria, which help take up space, leaving less room for other pathogens, other bad bacteria, which ultimately helps your immune system. So let's just say that even though you washed your hands and you have a good healthy secretory IgA, let's say the virus actually gets into your lungs. And it goes into your lungs, it goes into alveolar sacs in your lungs, and you have 2 types of lung cells. Type 1 deals with gas exchange, so that's letting oxygen in and carbon dioxide out, while your type 2 cells are your angiotensin converting cells. We call them your ACE2 cells, and the COVID virus loves those cells. So you may have seen pictures of the COVID virus. It's this ball, and it has these sort of antenna spikes sticking out of it. Those spikes are called S spikes, and the S spikes are able to go in and dock on the receptors for their ACE2 cells, and just land on those cells. And when they do, that COVID virus then uses that ACE2 cell to replicate and create more viruses that spread through your body. And when this replication process happens, it actually damages the lung cells. And all of this commotion, this kind of mini battle going on, attracts more immune cells. And immune cells like macrophages, that are these little Pac-Men, come in and try to eat up the viruses, eat up the inflammation, but that actually creates more inflammation. And something called reactive oxygen species are produced. More immune inflammation is produced. And at this point, you actually end up damaging your type 1 lung cells, which are involved with that gas exchange. And when that happens, that's why you have difficulty breathing. That's where respiration and breathing in and out becomes a problem. So one quick thing that you can do to test and see how well you're breathing is to take a deep breath in, hold it for 10 seconds. And if you have to reflexogenically cough or like clear your throat, it means that there may be some inflammation in your lungs. Now, this can happen to people that have asthma or some other lung condition, but if you normally have no issue with your lung and you're having trouble holding your breath for 10 seconds, a really, really big deep breath, that could be an early indicator that there's some inflammation there. So we've got all this inflammation happening in our lungs. We're starting to damage our lung cells. What can we do at this point? Well, this is when zinc becomes really important. So zinc has been shown to decrease that virus replication. So the COVID virus replicates by a process called DNA transcription. And zinc is really good at decreasing that, so stopping the virus replication. One of the treatments you may have heard about in the news is that people and doctors and hospitals are using Z-Paks. So Z-Paks are also believed to stop that RNA transcription or decrease that virus replication. So zinc is a natural remedy, a natural vitamin that you can use to help that process. You also may have heard to watch or be careful with ACE inhibiting medications like NSAIDs. NSAIDs are believed to be able to increase the virus's ability to dock on those ACE2 lung cells. So talk with your doctor before you stop or change any medication, but we think right now that if you're on an NSAID like Advil or on an ACE inhibiting medication, that you're actually helping that virus replicate faster. So we do want to minimize that if it's appropriate for you. And then what else can you do besides zinc? So all of our antioxidant vitamins like vitamin C and acetylcysteine that help support glutathione production, vitamin D are all major antioxidants that quench that inflammation. They quench that reactive oxidant species that are happening in that battle that's going on in your lungs. So they act like a bulletproof vest. They take the hit instead of your own body having to take the hit. So we love all of those nutrients, and they also increase Treg cell production. So Treg cells are the managers of your immune system. If you were to think of your immune system like an orchestra, the Treg cells are the conductors. They tell what part of the immune system to come on and what part to quiet down. So they're very important in managing the immune system. So in most people, this is as far as the virus ever gets. You get some early signs, you get some maybe shortness of breath, and your immune system is able to take control of the situation, take control of the virus, and you eventually get better by yourself. In some people, in some cases, which unfortunately are most of what we're hearing about on the news, this battle continues, and we have parts of our immune system called our Th1 and our Th17 activate to really try and fight this battle, but so much inflammation is produced that it becomes what we call a cytokine barrage or a cytokine storm. And these cytokines, they make you feel terrible. So cytokines are what create the body aches and pains. When the cytokines get into your body and they hit part of your brain called the hypothalamus, that's when you actually get a fever. So if cytokines go unchecked, it's not a good thing. And when they go throughout the whole body, that's when other organs can get damaged, like your heart and your kidneys and your liver. And that's when a ventilator isn't enough. This is where people get in a lot of trouble, because the ventilator helps the lungs breathe. But if other organs are getting damaged, the body goes into shock. And that's when people unfortunately die from COVID. So at this point, I hope that you're at the hospital. I hope you're under doctor's supervision. And what we've learned from some of these hospitals, even under other countries like France, is that they are using, like I said, the Z-Pak. They are using anti-malaria drugs like Plaquenil. That is a major immunosuppressant, shutting down your immune system, a major cytokine suppressant, shutting down that inflammatory response. And so we can look at this as, in this stage of the condition, what else can we do to kind of quench that inflammation? And that's what I was talking about with our vitamin D, with our vitamin C, with our glutathione. Even turmeric really is helpful in some of these cytokine responses to quench the inflammation. So don't do this at home. If you are not getting better, by all means go to the hospital, get the supervision of a doctor to decide whether drugs are needed for you. Definitely do not try to get these drugs or do any of this at home. But in the early stages of the condition, our main goal is to try and help our immune systems as much as possible. So nutrients can be really immunoregulatory, like the conductors of that orchestra, and increase the parts of the immune system that need support, quiet the parts that are creating all of this inflammation, and help regulate the immune system before it gets to a cytokine storm, before it gets to that phase. So let's just recap everything that we have talked about. Each step of this virus process has an immune nutrient way that we can support it. So step one is always hand washing. Break down that lipid bilayer in the virus. Don't even let it get in. Support healthy secretory IgA. Support that healthy immune barrier with decreasing stress, with increasing your sleep, with vitamin A and probiotics. Then decrease the virus ability to replicate with zinc, and decrease inflammation, quench the inflammation in your body, support the T regulator cells, the orchestras, the conductors of the orchestra, with your vitamin C, with your glutathione, with your N-acetylcysteine, with your turmeric, and keep the immune system as healthy as possible. So I hope that this video empowers you. I hope it's informative. We are flattening the curve, which is awesome, but it does mean the virus is going to be around a little bit longer than expected. And ultimately, our goal is always not just to try and treat something or cure something, a specific pathogen or a specific disease or health condition, but to actually create resilience and vitality in our bodies so that we all come out of this a healthier version of ourselves.